Just gonna go for it. It's gonna end up in the brook, isn't it? Good morning, folks. Welcome back to the farm. What a beautiful day after yesterday's absolute washout. Less soggy doggies today, and today it's all about getting that netting strained out. First time I've done it, but I think we've got all the gear and no idea. I've set kind of every third or fourth post I've put a mark at 110, and then I kind of want to just see if any of these posts are looking particularly high or low, and most of them are okay, but I have spotted one down here I'm going to pull out because I'm fussy like that. So I'm going to bring that post up a little bit so the post will be a little bit taller. We can always backfill. Problem is, if you make the fence dip too much on a particular post, especially if it's a small one, the strain of the post, of the wire, can actually lift the post up out the floor, out the ground. So we don't want that to happen. I'm going to go and get a small roll, a big roll that I managed to get forklifted into the back of the car yesterday. So I think we'll have to bring the Discovery down to unload it rather than shifting it twice. So this is what a 250 metre roll of netting looks like. Normally we get 100, but that means no joins, and it's also a different type of wire, but more on that in a minute. Here's my pyramid of wire. Providing when we go up the hill far end nothing rolls into the back window, I might just try and drive all the way out there, then we'll have to come back and get the truck. We'll do a bit of a relay. Trying to stay up on this high ground, see how we get on. So we'll strain this one from this end so it can come out here. Maybe I'll back up next to the fence line. It's quite level. Let's see if I can lower it a bit. Just gonna go for it. It's gonna end up in the brook, isn't it? Success! So we'll roll from this end. It's staying on this side. It's nice and light, this roll, in the whole scheme of things. So we want to get it tied on this end, and I think we'll strain at that end. Right, you'll see what I mean now when I start rolling this out, that it's upside down, but we should be able to stand it up like that. I think normally you'd have the bottom there and just flop it up. It's all well and good doing that with a 100 metre roll, but a 250 metre roll is not going to be easy to steer. I was hoping that I could pull it out behind the truck, just put it on a bar and like tow it out, which could work, but it's a slope as well, so it would probably just go off to the side. It's worth looking now. Can you see how this flops down? Looks rubbish. That's just the design. It's called a hinge joint, so all of these just hinge, and that all does get sorted out, but when we move on to the next section, it's different, completely different style. Now, I mentioned all the gear and no idea. This is where it starts. So the first thing we need is this, which I bought last year when I thought we were going to do more of it ourselves. And here we are, doing it more of ourselves. So we're going to clamp this netting between here, and we're going to pull this that way. Now we need to work out how much to cut off this roll. Now that strainer does have a fitting on the middle, so in theory you could pull it with one, but it's always best if you pull top and bottom, which would mean having two of these. I only have one and I couldn't bring myself to buy another one yesterday, but I do, which is another midnight thought. I had this winch puller, cable puller, so that is my answer for the top. Fit on. Yeah. So that's going to be there, and then we need to do the opposite up the top. Great, so now we need to go and pull it up. You see what I mean? It's literally folded in on itself here. So it'll be interesting to see which one's easier in install, this one or the one that we're doing this afternoon, if we get that far. So the idea is, if we're straining from an end, we're going to strain this way, and then this last 2 meters of slack we'll pull as tight as we can by hand, put the gripples on, and when we let it off, it'll all get tight, or it will remain tight. This is far more affordable way to go actually, 2 of these. I don't know what the benefit is of using the chain pullers. I'm happy with how it is now. Yeah, that's definitely tight enough. So I'd love to say we could tie it with knots, but I think I'll gripple it. So I've now got the net in, it's all tight. I've taken the bracket off and it's stayed tight all the way along, which I'm really pleased with. So no issues at all so far, which is awesome. I'm now gonna get it stapled up. The top line, which I was using as my guide to just kind of keep my post nice, I'm going to do exactly the same with that as I've done there over on this side. Tell you what, as they've just arrived, let's have a look at these. These are just the, I think I mentioned them in the last video, they're kind of a ratchet tensioner, which would potentially mean you wouldn't have to, I don't know how tight they go, but they would almost mean you wouldn't have to have all the chains and stuff, but maybe they don't go tight enough. But what I wanted to do is, if I use these on the top 2 strands, it means I can tighten them over time. They're quite beefy, so that's one. These are the ones you tie off. I think they do another one which just grips, but we don't have that one. XT1 I think they're called. Sorry Doug. Right, I'm not sure if this is necessary, but I'm going to do it anyway. So I've done a strainer knot there, so that should be adequate. And I'm going to put one of these here and here, and what that'll do is mean that we've got one strained here for our normal wire, and then when we finally, the last thing to do, we'll put our electric at the top, so we'll have an insulator, and then this one. I think you can get an insulated version of this. Either way, I kind of like the idea that we can just tweak it up over time. So once it's going, it should be all right. And I need to make sure, oh, don't tell me it's around the wrong way, so I'm not rolling it uphill. I think it's okay. So what I'm going to do is roll it from here, and I'm going to stay on the track, roll it down the track, because the first sort of section we want the wire this side anyway, and then when we get to a particular post where it ducks back through to the right, at that point I'll go, and then that way hopefully I can keep it up the bank and it'll be a bit lighter. Oh, I think I already like it better. It looks way stronger. It's heavier than I thought. We'll look at it in a minute, but it holds itself vertically far better than the hinge joint, which makes sense, I guess. So if you have lots of turns, which we will when we go around the water and things like that, this could be a lot more suitable. Can't believe that. After all that. Oh, about 10 metres short. I could have sworn that that gate up there was within 250. There's maybe a metre of slack in this, but I'm here. It's probably enough to get to about here. Oh, it's typical, isn't it? Now, of course, I've got loads of the other stuff, the hinge type. And I could join it pretty easily. It's just, and the bow tie tensile. Maybe we should just do that. I can get it done. I've got some cripples I can do a join with. We left half a roll in the hedge, didn't we? I can't believe that. Oh well, let's not dwell on it. I'm such a loser. I'm now contemplating taking apart this end and putting the extra bit up here where it's outside. Might only take 5 minutes. I'm up here anyway. If I cut these, I should be able to slide the gripples off, reuse them on the other one, and then I'll have to somehow drag the whole lot that way. Oh, good gracious. Okay, it wasn't 5 minutes, but I've done it. So I've swapped it around. The hinged one is up this side, you know, where the other hinge stuff is, and the join is up here. It's still, I guessed how much we needed to add. We're still only just there, but I think we can pull it tight. Here's another look. Here's old saggy droopy pants hinged version here, and then here's the Taurus knot. I don't think it's any stronger or any more durable, but it does feel it. Okay, I think we're good to go. So it weaves, these 4 posts here are the outside of that corner, so I'm around the back of those and then back on the field side here. Okay. Oh, it's getting cold and I need a cup of coffee. Just want to get this done. It just looks so much better when it's pulled out and tightened. Okay. was just about to grab a few staples, but I can't really do that yet, because if I staple here and we need to pull beyond this point, it's going to cause problems. So we just need to make sure it's stood up and that its bottom is in against the fence. Almost don't mind if it folds out, because it will flip up in a second. Yeah, I'm going to see if I can pull it a bit tighter anyway. Bit by bit, tug it along. I don't think there's that much friction on the turner post, but you can see why some people stretch it from the middle. Well, I'm nearly out of travel. I thought this would happen. So probably pulled about 1.5 meters. The chain allows for way more than that. This pulley's probably about 3 meters, so I could have done a little bit further. Well, we definitely didn't need to worry about running short. We've got a good bit there. And like I say, this first stretch is looking good now. Morning, we're back. It's miserable, it's wet. We're gonna get this fence finished today. Nothing moved overnight, which is good. What you missed is I actually went ahead and I moved the clamp 1 meter further on and restrained it, just to give us an extra bit of pull. So now it's exactly where we want it. Bit of faff, but it meant that we could do it in one. The other option would have been to go the other end and pull a little bit more slack out, but then I would have had to take all those gripples off and rejoin it. I mean, I guess that's one benefit of the gripples. It gives you a little bit of time to play. If I'd knotted everything off that end, I wouldn't have been able to do that. Anyway, we are where we are. So this is definitely as tight as I want it. And I'm surprised how well this has worked. If you are gonna do just a few bits of fencing, obviously you really need one of these unless you just fabricate something up yourself. But I'm not sure what the benefit of a proper chain boundary restrainer is over one of these. That's £140. And this, well, I don't know what it was, Silverline something or other on Amazon, less than 50, I think. And these are a little bit more useful for other stuff. That said, the wire on this steel rope is far shorter. I think it's 3 meters. It's shorter than the 6 meter chain that comes on there. Anyway, that's minor details. Let's get this tied off. Happy days. This one we've still got a tension from the other end. So far so good. I can be a bit fussy with these things, and I'm just trying to get this right because, as I mentioned when we were putting this thing up, the ground undulates and I don't want it to look messy, especially if we do level out the track a bit more in the future. Therefore, last night I made a decision. I came down in nearly when it was dark with Dad, so that one of us could stand back and one of us could tack on the net, and then from that we'll set our top wires. Might be a bit hard to explain, but to start with, we're getting all of our posts exactly the same from the ground, so 1.2 meters, but that can make some of them look higher than they really are. But what you find is when you pull the stock net really tight and it's all nice and hunky-dory, then at that point you end up, the stock net changes direction very gradually because obviously it's a more rigid thing. Whereas if you try and set out your a single wire exactly the same distance from either the top of the post or the ground, it just looks messy. So we're actually going to do what we should have done right at the beginning, which is kind of the normal thing, which is set the stock net, then we'll set our top strands above that exactly the same, so they'll just follow the stock net, and then if there is excess of the top of any of the posts, then I'll cut them off. Right, now if you follow us over on the main channel on the Restoration Couple, you'll know that I did a bit of a comparison with a new tool that we've received. Thanks ever so much, bye. It's about some chickens. Joe put us down to re-aim some chickens. Right, so as I was saying, we reviewed, or I bought this thinking it was going to be the answer to everything, because hand driving staples in these posts was pretty hard going. Then it turned out that this brand new state-of-the-art supposedly staple gun still struggled a bit, but now we've downsized to 40mm staples. It's just about okay. It's driving them in about 3/4 of the way, which is all we need, because obviously we want that fence to be able to move through. So we're going to go with this one, and we've still got the option of driving in 30mm staples by hand if and when needed. I've cracked on and got on with a bit more, so let me show you the far end, which is the bit that's now complete. This has the hinged version of the netting, but that's all in, and then stapled in our first line. And as we've done in lots of the other fields, we've used these fixings. These are insulators. This one will be electrified when we want to. So that's kind of how we're working. That's the spacing. So this one ends up at about 1.1 meters, which is the required height. This one is, I think, about 70mm or so above. I had a bit of a blocked as a spacer, and then we've done every other and then alternated. So on the next post we'll staple top and the second one and this one, and that just means that when we want to, not so much down this end, this will just be able to take the electric through to the next field, and I'll run an underground one to here, which will go all the way up probably to the mains up in the barn. But what it means is we can just hook on to that top line and gradually strip graze along this field when the grass is actually growing. So there we go, almost there, a little bit more to do, and then I'll make a decision on how many, if any, of these posts need to be just trimmed down to make sure it all looks nice and even. But it's looking far better now. The stock fence was the answer after all. There's just that one dip, which you probably can't make out, but there's a dip there, which is where the track used to come up off the bottom field, bottom of the field. But I think once all the wires are on, it will look more regular. Just need to get the top one stapled up. So that isn't the end of it all. Hope you enjoyed kind of learning with me on this. There's a lot of lessons learned, and on the next field, my hands are tied because I have to wait until the strainer, the big gate post and strainer post are put in by either Craig or Tom or another contractor that's got a big knocker. But I should be able to run some of these stakes in there with just the petrol knocker, the hand one, because I can run string lines out. I thought I'd have to wait until the big posts are in, but if there's a delay, I can still get 300-400 posts, the small intermediate posts in the ground up along hedgerows and all that sort of stuff.